Welcome to the Ecommerce Alley podcast, where we believe that great brands are built on passionate leadership, smart operations, and of course, powerful marketing. I'm your host, Josh Coffey, and we're hanging on the Ecommerce Alley with Dylan Counts. And this episode is going to be a little unique.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one.
I'm going to we just recently ran a promotion for one of the partner brands that we work with. And Dylan's not very involved in the house brands.
I've got too much going on as is.
Yeah, Dylan has a lot.
I try to stay out of it.
Dylan has a lot going on, so Dylan's not involved in like the house brands that we're kind of working with.
Yeah.
And so we just had a crazy great.
I've heard about it.
Promo.
I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, because we were eat, sleep, breathing as
Yes.
the team was. It was very exciting, but just had multiple six-figure weekend doing a promo. And so we figured it'd be kind of fun to just talk about what we did, that maybe you could take something from this and use this in your next promotion.
Yeah.
And also, we also want to make sure that everybody knows that when you film videos, you also don't want to wear shorts. Because I'm filming this video and I got made fun of for wearing shorts in here, because if you look at this camera angle over here on YouTube, it looks like I'm not wearing anything. That's what Isaac said.
Well, I haven't seen the camera shot. I don't think it looks like you're wearing nothing.
Okay,
it's just a lot of leg.
And I'm a lot of white. So
a lot of white leg, and the light's not helping either.
It's not.
It's all
everyone on audio. Don't worry about it. You're in good shape.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I was gonna bring that up. But you're my boss, so I didn't want to like embarrass you in front of everybody.
I embarrass myself.
I appreciate that. It was a good, lighthearted conversation. So, talking about this promo sprint that you did, I think first let's just start with what was the promo sprint? What was the offer? How long was it? Just the basics, so everyone understands what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So this brand, just to give context, is in the apparel space, and we did a 4-day promotion. It was a Friday through Monday, and we did about $567,000, a little bit more than that, almost $568,000 in sales. We were able to
just that time period.
Just in that time period.
Okay.
So $567,938 in sales. To be specific, in sales. I did take a screenshot so we could have some numbers, because I know people like numbers. Like I do. We spent about $157,000 on advertising. Net profit, about $118,000. Obviously, we're running a promo, so because of that, there was a discount. So like our net revenue is lower than the gross, because we gave discounts, and then we also had ad costs and all of that. But the net profit after product COGS and after advertising COGS was about $118,000 in those 4 days, which is pretty cool.
That's great.
Really fun.
Yeah.
And so basically what we ran was it was a 4-day sale with one offer.
Okay.
And it was 30% off a particular collection, of which we built a page for that offer.
Real quick, you're saying like for an offer collection, is this, because you said it's apparel, is it like a specific product? Is it a specific, like, it's not site-wide, right?
No.
Was it a specific product? How is that?
So it was just product. It was like all similar product. It was all similar products that we just decided to put into this category. So we just put them in the collection for this sale. Everything was not on sale. It was just these particular items were 30% off for these 4 days only.
Gotcha.
That was it.
That makes sense.
So we kept it very specific, and I think that it was very singular offer focus. And honestly, this is a good point. I think that anyone listening needs to understand, like, if you run a promo sprint, is what we call them. It's like it's a promo and you're sprinting, like a short window of time, like 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Usually 4 is like the max we typically will run them. Occasionally we'll run it for a week, but you lose momentum midstream, so why even go for a whole week, in my opinion? And so it was 4 days. And I think it's important to know that I believe you need to have like a single offer. Like when you try to like do different offers inside of it, like this collection is 30% off. This is buy one, get something for $5. Like it's so confusing.
It's too hard to communicate too.
It is. It's so hard to communicate. And so we're running this offer, and we had to decide what were the marketing channels that we were going to use to really drive this offer home. And Meta is our greatest channel for acquisition. To give context, we have Meta ads, we have Google ads, and we also have TikTok ads running for this brand.
Okay. Did you use all 3 of those for this promo sprint?
No.
Okay.
No, we actually did not.
Okay.
Because this, depending on what the what you're running.
Yeah.
In promo sprint environments, generally you're leaning into more of your warm and hot retargeting audiences, right?
Yep.
So because of that, we wanted to isolate it primarily to Meta, because most of our audience segments on Meta are built out and we could really hone in on those.
Yep.
And Meta's just the biggest channel. So like we could try to do everything, but TikTok behaves a lot different than Meta behaves, a lot different than Google. Google's not really good for promo sprints. So Google's not like a promo sprint environment channel. TikTok is. However, we just saw we see the best bang for the buck on Meta, so we just went all in on Meta.
So some people may be thinking so real quick, before we talk specifically about Meta, what was the strategy for the whole thing? You did Meta ads and that's it, or?
Yeah, so we had Meta ads running, and then we did email, SMS, and we did social.
Okay.
And then that was it.
Okay.
I mean, pretty standard.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing crazy fancy about it. And when we ran Meta, we actually we leave all of our evergreen stuff running. So we have all these other campaigns. We only had one campaign on Meta, like one actual ad campaign.
For the promo sprint?
For the promo sprint.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have multiple other campaigns.
But the promo sprint was only one
The promo sprint is literally one Meta ads campaign. We had emails and we had SMS. And that was it.
Yep.
And most of the revenue all came from Meta. And so what's interesting to me is, like, I think a lot of people overcomplicate a lot of stuff. And so what we do is we just repurpose a lot of things. So a lot of the assets you create for email go out in SMS, go out in social.
Yep.
And you can also take those creatives and move them and use them inside of the statics, at least. You can move inside of Meta.
Yep.
And so we just repurpose a lot of the same stuff so that we have congruent messaging across the board. So we ran Meta, specific campaign, we ran email campaigns, and we ran SMS campaigns.
Okay.
And one more thing I want to add to this, and I believe this is really valuable and often overlooked when you're running a promotion, and that is congruency on the website as well. In particularly in the sticky bar, or the sticky bar that floats at the top.
Yep.
We had the offer and we had a countdown timer with a call to action to shop the sale.
Okay.
Because people are landing from all of our evergreen campaigns all over the site, organic and so forth. And so we want those people to also see that we're doing this 30% promotion in a short time window, and then create scarcity for it, or urgency for it, as well as put timers in the emails and put timers in on the collection page where people are clicking to buy.
That would be an overlooked thing, because if you already have your evergreen campaigns running, you're driving to a specific product, and people are just going to buy that product. But if they see that there's a sale, without that sticky banner, they wouldn't know at all. So having that allows them to shop that, which is kind of interesting, and I could definitely see that being overlooked. Yeah. So let's talk about Meta ads, because obviously that's probably what everyone is really interested in, really juicy. How does that work? Because obviously I think people are probably thinking, obviously Meta needs a certain amount of time to optimize or whatever, and this only ran for 4 days. So what is the optimization looking like? I think let's do that. What does the optimization look like for a 4-day campaign?
Yeah, so this is where, this is when you're running, like, especially high volume, I mean, just really in general, when you're running a promotional campaign, the challenge is that Meta has delayed attribution of up to 72 hours. So if I got purchases today, it may not even show up until the final day.
Yeah.
Or on purchases on day 2 and 3 may not even show up until the promo's done.
Yep.
And so you have to make media buying decisions on what to kill from an ad level or an ad set level based on pulse of the whole business.
Yeah.
And so this is where we monitored throughout the day. We had 3 different checkpoints: morning, midday, and evening, where we had to measure what is our ad spend as a percentage of overall revenue.
Yep. And you're looking at this hour by hour of, like, you had in this hour you spent this much, and in this hour we made this much. Is that basically how you're looking, like, that granular?
Exactly. So I mean, like, we spent $40,000 a day on ads.
Yeah.
So like we were looking all day throughout the day.
Yeah.
Like, but the biggest thing was we're measuring. We use a tool called Metric, and Metric is a great tool to give you these percentages and ad spend percentages right away between all the platforms. But we were monitoring, like, you have to monitor the platform metrics, but you have to really monitor, because we know attribution can be delayed, you have to really monitor, like, holistic numbers. So throughout the day, in the morning, we're like, okay, we're sitting at 15% of our revenue in ad spend right now. And then it started to climb as the day usually progressed, because things were scaling and spending more. But we don't want to go over 30%. Our target range is 25 to 30% of ad spend for this brand. And so we had to monitor that in conjunction with monitoring the performance of each of the ads in the ad sets inside that campaign, so that way it was matching up. Yeah. And what's interesting is, because it was such a short time frame, and in that campaign, by the way, that promo campaign spent $89,000 in those 4 days.
Okay.
One campaign, just to give the setup for everybody here, we ran a single campaign. It was campaign level budget. We had 3 ad sets. We did a lifetime budget, start to finish, and we set the budget for $100,000. Our objective was actually to spend $60,000. But as we know, in a short window of time,
Yeah.
in a short window of time, it is harder to chase if things are going well than it is to pull back.
Yep.
And so we wanted to spend $60,000 to $70,000. That was what our objective was. Let's say we set that as our goal and things were going really, really well in the first day or two, like they were. When you try to increase budgets in a short window of time, Meta doesn't like that. So it's better to start with a heavier budget and then pull back on the budget as the week the promo progresses if performance is not where you want it, which is actually what happened here.
Okay.
And so our goal was 60 to 70, so we set a campaign lifetime budget of $100,000. Day one, cooking out of the gates. It spent like $37,000 on day one, or $35,000. It was 30-something thousand.
Okay.
Day two, lifetime budgets kind of work like this. They kind of ebb and flow throughout the day and throughout that window of time. Day two, it spent pretty heavy and it was really good. But toward the end of day two, we started to see results begin to fatigue as we started to run out of certain stock of certain products. So we had to start kill switching ads inside each of those as we started getting low stock in those. As performance dipped.
Are you kill switching ads based on just cost per click of the specific ad, or what metrics are you looking at? Obviously inventory, but when you're looking at actual ad performance, how are you doing?
We're still looking at purchases, cost per purchase, and ROAS.
Okay.
And the reason we could still do this is a really high volume,
Yeah.
right? So that campaign had over 3,000 purchases in 4 days. So it's enough to where it goes through the learning phase really, really fast.
Yep.
It gets a lot of optimization. So even though it's not fully reflective on the whole thing because of delayed attribution,
Yep.
we were still able to make decisions based on the general pulse,
Yeah.
right?
It may not be perfectly accurate,
Yeah.
but it has some data that you can work off of, and then you're going to use the ad spend percentage to reconcile it, basically.
Exactly. Okay. So ad spend percentage is our umbrella that we make good decisions within, and as long as we're in ad spend percentage, we go down and then we start to optimize accordingly.
Yeah.
To give you a breakdown of how we had the 3 ad sets. We really had 2 ad sets, and then the third ad set was just a retargeting with all of the ads from the other 2 ad sets. So we had a video ad set, and we had a static image ad set. The video ad set had 10 different unique videos. The static ad set of just images had 8 unique ads in it. So we ran this on a collective 18 ads,
Wow.
$89,000, 4 days. So a lot of people think that they need a lot of ads. In fact, you don't even need that many if you're not running like heavier budgets, but we ran 89K in 4 days on 18 total ads.
Yeah.
By the end, we only had to shut off like 3 or 4, and that was it.
Yeah.
It just carried it, did really well. So we had those 2. Those were completely broad, and we didn't have any exclusions. So of course, it really hit or engaged on our existing customers.
Yep.
That third ad set was simply retargeting, where we were specific, and we did manual, and we hand selected the audiences. We did engaged in Facebook from like the last 180 days. We did website visitors from the last 180 days, purchasers from the last 180 days, and then we excluded, I think, some purchasers from the last 30 or something like that. So that was a strategically targeted, like retargeting campaign. And what was interesting was the campaign level budget shifted them all relatively evenly. Like the budget spend wasn't a lot of times, as you know, it heavyweights to 1. It actually didn't heavyweight just to 1. It spent pretty evenly between all of them, which the reason we split out statics from videos is because usually videos take all of the budget. So if we had them all in one ad set, it probably would have just gone all to one video. So we wanted to kind of spread it to see how they performed. And the performance of video versus static was almost identical. It was like the static actually performed better than the video in this case.
Yep.
And so, which just to give you numbers on that, in those ads, the ROAS for that 4-day period of time, we spent 137,000 of the 157 on Meta. So almost all of it, like 80% or so. The return on ad spend was 3.53 on Meta.
Oh, you're saying the 137
is the whole campaign, the whole account. but we spent 89 in just that
Gotcha.
single campaign.
Okay.
So we kept the evergreen going.
That's what I was going to ask then. What percentage of the ad spend for the brand was like, obviously you increased ad spend for it. What was the increase? So I guess the difference between 137,000 and 89.
Yeah.
So it was more than double.
So we spent
the ad
almost
spend.
50. We spent almost 50,000 on evergreen that we kept going.
Yeah.
About 12,000, 13,000 a day we have going in evergreen, and then we just added on an additional 89.
Wow. So if I'm hearing this as an e-commerce business owner, I'm like, my ad spend percentage is already 35, 40%. Like it's climbing. How do I stomach a promo sprint like this to spend money on Meta?
Oh, that's a good question. So two things that I kind of look at. That's a really good point, right? Because like if you're already, like we were already in the 25 to 30% ad spend range.
Yep.
And we had to decide we're going to spend $90,000 or set it for $100,000
Yep.
on top of that range.
And you have to assume that promo
You have to
sprint's
assume that
gonna
it's
do
going to
well.
perform well.
Yeah.
So if you want to get really nerdy, we have what we call an unlimited scale metric. And that means as long as we're at, so if our target is 30% ad spend, it basically means as long as my return on ad spend is over a 3.33, I will never go over 30% ad spend.
Yep.
As you notice, the whole campaign or account performance was 3.53.
Yep.
Meaning, as long as we're over 3.33, we could scale as much as we want and we would never go over our ad spend percentage target of 30%.
Gotcha.
So that's what we monitored every day to make sure that we were staying in our numbers, and then we would monitor the whole account
Yep.
or the whole business level ad spend as well. So we hit that number.
Yeah.
And so that's why we had confidence in being able to spend. Now, so there are two things I kind of look at. Before you go make a big decision or do something like this, you have to look at what's your confidence level in how this is going to perform, and then what is your risk tolerance level from a cash standpoint.
Yep.
So before we did this, we talked with the founder. I said, are you okay with us spending $100,000 on this promo in conjunction with the others? We're going to spend probably $150,000, $160,000 in the next 4 days. $40,000 a day between all channels. And she's like, yep, I'm cool with that.
Yep. So that would be the cash position.
So yes, so her risk tolerance,
Yep.
she had a high risk tolerance for it because she had cash to warrant that.
Yep.
And we had a high confidence level because we know what types of creatives and what kinds of ads and what structures work. And so when you have a high confidence and you have high risk tolerance because you could weather it, then that just makes for a good decision.
Yep.
And so we were able to, with our experience and what we know and what we're working with, be like, okay, we could do this. But if I had low risk tolerance, like I had no cash in the bank,
Yep.
but I had high confidence, that poses massive discrepancy
Yeah.
in risk by itself. And so you may not want to go that hard. We probably would have set the budget lower. But when you have high tolerance and high confidence, then you just full send.
So what would it look like if you don't have that confidence, you don't have the cash in the bank, and your ad spend percentage is high? Like, should you even run a promo sprint, or would it be better to get your other ads in check?
Okay.
How do you?
That's a great question. So we have a principle that I do not go beyond 30% ad spend percentage.
Yeah.
Because by the time you factor in cost of goods for this brand, 35%, 30% ads on the top, then I have 35% of operating margin, right?
Yep.
And so I don't go above 30% no matter what. If the promo sprint starts to go over 30%, we start pulling budgets back. If you are above 30 and you're at 35 or 40% right now, you'll either need to free up budget for something like this. You're gonna have to trim off 10% to make budget for this. Or if you're already sitting Goldilocks in the center of 25 to 30 or whatever your target range is, then I would still launch it. However, only launch to retargeting, because the confidence of your retargeting audience doing well in a small window of time is gonna be really high.
Yep.
The performance is going to be really high, so it'll actually really help you. I mean, if I look at our engaged in existing customers and retargeting, the performance of that is like double what cold traffic was. But we ran into a lot of cold traffic because we're trying to acquire a lot of new customers with this. And so, yeah, so I just say like, hey, if it's too high, then you just need to trim up budget, because I don't go above 30%. That's my principle. Trim up budget and then run the campaign, or only run to retargeting, because the probability of that being really profitable is going to be really high.
And then you can also use email to kind of back that up too, right? Like if you're going to run a promo sprint, maybe you don't want to spend as much on ads, or you're just going to do a retargeting promo sprint. You can kind of rely on email to maybe pick up the slack that you don't have the confidence in your ads to do. And for this case, you did email. What did that look like?
So email only produced about 12% of the revenue.
Okay.
Now we have strict parameters on email. We only do one day click attribution in Klaviyo. Klaviyo wants to take a lot of email open attribution. Anyway, not to get into the weeds of that. So we have really tight parameters on email. So we only did 12% of revenue in email. About 67,000 came from that. Like 480-ish thousand came from Meta, performance-wise. So almost all of the sales came from Meta. Well, it was like 450 or whatever the 3.5 times 137 is. So most performance came from Meta. Email and SMS. So here's what we did for email and SMS. We did pretty simple. We did a 2-2-2-3 cadence. So it was like AM and PM. 10 a.m., 7 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then on Monday, that was the last day, we did 3. We did like I think it was like a 9 a.m., a 12 p.m., or a 1 p.m., and then a 7 p.m. So we kind of did 3 in a single day. We only sent 1 SMS per day, which was always with the last email of the day, because we know that most people buy toward the end of the night. For them, it's a lot busier for them. 7 to midnight is a huge buying cycle. So we made sure that the texts that we sent out were in the evenings. And it just said this, it reiterated the same thing as in the email. So it's literally just ChatGPT, shorten this under this many characters for SMS, and that's what we did.
Okay, so you said email and SMS produced 12% of the total. Would you, looking back at it, have put the time and energy that you spent on email and SMS into the ads because it produced more revenue? Or do you still feel like email and SMS played a big role in the promo sprint as a whole?
No, it definitely plays a big role. I mean, we're trying to extract and move. We're trying to move over. We have like 400 and something thousand people on our list. So we're trying to move all these non-buyers into the buyer bucket. And so we had to, we want the email and SMS to offset our ad spend percentage. If we didn't do that, then our ad spend percentage would have been a lot higher. And so that's like free money and it's high leverage. So us sending one email, the first email we sent that day made like $18,000 or $20,000 on day 1. So it's like, okay, well, that didn't take that long to make 20 grand, right? So like the leverage is really high in email that it's not like it takes a lot of resource to do that. The other thing too is depending on the size of the account, you can only push so hard before like Meta begins to just kind of fall apart if it's not used to that spend threshold. So to give perspective, the most that this account had ever spent before was the previous year, same month, and they spent $30,000 or $31,000 a day on Meta for 3 days. Well, we were spending like $37,000 a day on Meta. So we were spending more, and in the most recent past, in the last few months, they had whittled down to only spending like $8,000 to $10,000 a day. So we were spending already 3.5 times the daily typical spend in the last like 2-3 months. So you got to kind of watch that, which we also, there are some like post-campaign performance things I think is probably worth talking about because the next week and a half kind of got brutal because we extracted so much from our existing database that we harvested all this goodwill and all of this revenue. And then we started to see in Meta is, for this brand, is splitting pretty evenly the spend on an evergreen basis, which right now we're spending like 15 to 20K evergreen, but before it was like 8 to 10. And so like 15 to 20K, and it's like splitting it almost evenly in all our campaigns between new audience segment, engaged audience segment, and existing customer. Well, what that means is only 1/3 of your spend is going to new people. 2/3 is going to people that have engaged or bought from you already. And so our evergreen campaigns after that begin to cannibalize themselves.
Yeah, because you're hitting all those people so hard during the promo sprint with ads and email and that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, it's already putting a lot of the evergreen budget to those people. And that makes sense.
It was an amazing weekend, but after that, it began to just throat chop the performance of our evergreen campaigns. So we had to adjust and start leaning into exclusions and focusing on new audience expansion. There's a strategy that we implemented. I'm not telling everybody to do this. I don't think most people need to do this, but we had to then move into like an add to cart campaign that we any clients listening, please don't go do this. But we had to integrate, like if you run an add to cart campaign, you're gonna get add to carts, you're not gonna get purchases. I mean, we get some purchases, but it's like 0.5 ROAS. It's pretty bad. And so then
this is like 3D chess that you're about to do here. I think I see where you're going.
So
this is interesting.
So what we started running was, did I even tell you about this or no?
No.
Okay, so the problem that we ran into is like we exhausted all this, so we need new audience expansion.
Yep.
So we launched a campaign with all of our winning evergreen products. We pulled all of those exact ads with not post IDs, we pulled all the proof and everything into them.
Yep.
And we have a winning campaign, and we had to launch that at like 1,500 or 2,000 a day. And we had to exclude, because they're winning, we excluded all engaged audiences and all existing customers, so all of our warm and hot.
Yep.
So it's forcing us to go to new audiences, right? That campaign started running, and we had to put our proven stuff in there so we knew that it could weather.
It would do something.
It would do something. It would weather us being profitable at least a 2.5 to a 3 return on ad spend. Well, it's hovering over 3, which is wonderful for us. And so that's expanding our new audiences, because we know we run a promo once a month. So we need to continue expanding new audiences. But then we also went and we took other winning posts and winning ads, and we moved those into an add to cart campaign. Now it's not a small, it's a small spend of like $250 a day, I think is what we have it at right now. And we launched it at $250 a day, but when you launch an add to cart campaign, CPMs are really cheap, clicks are really cheap. It's not as cheap as traffic campaigns, but then you start getting add to carts for 50 cents, 60 cents, 75 cents. And then what happens is, once we did that, we began to see new audiences begin to expand. We begin to see new audience spend and other campaigns begin to rise. I just think that Meta capped those or something, and we just needed to bring more people into our ecosystem or warm those people up. Because Meta was, sorry, I didn't explain that right. Meta is splitting our new audiences, engaged audiences, and existing customers evenly.
Yep.
So what we have to do is we have to bring in,
fill the engaged
we have to
audience bucket.
We have to fill the engaged audience bucket, exactly.
Yeah.
And so
which most people won't run into this problem, because this is a really high spend account. But it's interesting to hear the problem that came, and it was just a slight pivot to fix the problem.
Yeah, you just got to adjust. This is where I geek out over this. Connor and I do, we're just drooling over, we just love analyzing the data. We're okay, what can we do next? And so we implemented that because we know that it's going to spend evenly between all of those, and we don't want to add exclusions. When you add exclusions, you put delivery restriction on Meta, and it doesn't like it.
On the purchase campaign.
Yeah, so if we were running all of our purchase campaigns, if we were always excluding our warm and hot audiences, Meta just doesn't like that.
And then you also could have went and took those purchase campaigns and edited them to exclude those people. But then that would have hurt the performance of that campaign even worse than what was already happening.
We want to give Meta control to decide how much it spends on engaged, existing, and new. But because we know it's spending a third in thirds right now, we know that it's going to be difficult to scale, because you can't scale with only a third of your budget going to new audiences. You're going to keep hitting ceilings. And so we had to have these two specific campaigns, one add to cart and then one with winning products, so we knew it would have better performance, that was only new audience, so that it could begin fueling the other campaigns that we have going that are spending evenly between engaged and existing customers.
Yeah, so so basically the engaged audience in those working campaigns were inflated by all of these new people that are now engaged. So the third was just going to go to the hottest people in that engaged audience.
And then Meta's going to
the people that just interacted with those other campaigns.
Exactly, and Meta is going to assign credit to a purchase in a purchase campaign before it does. So let's say I'm in a 7-day click window, and I click and I add to cart, but then now I'm in the retargeting buckets of this other campaign as an engaged user, right? Then I place a purchase in that same window of time. It will actually give credit to the purchase campaign because it is the higher level metric.
Yeah.
So I don't expect purchases in the add to carts. We have some purchases in there. People just literally clicked and bought, but we're running at a 0.4, 0.5 ROAS. I don't really care. But we have thousands of add to carts. I mean, you're getting 50-cent add to carts. So you're getting 500 add to carts a day, $250 a day. And so those add to carts, plus not including the clicks, are feeding into the other campaigns to bring the performance up of those, which after we had that running for 3-4 days, we started to see performance rise in other campaigns.
And then at that point, you're just going to use ad spend percentage to gauge, because you're not going to get purchases from those, so you would anticipate that would hurt your results, but you can use ad spend percentage to gauge the cost of those two new campaigns that maybe are not producing the purchases, to make sure that everything is in check campaign-wide, or account-wide.
Yes, and we could just see the performance of the campaigns by themselves go up. So those purchase campaigns, their results go up, and we're happy.
Yep.
Anything over 3, we're happy. What's interesting though is like all the stuff that I just share in here. Like we just did a podcast on like. What's funny is we did this promo after we did a podcast on, hey, if we had to go from 0 to 100,000 as quickly as possible, 100,000 per month as quickly as possible. We're starting at 0. What would we do? You and I mapped that out in another podcast. Everybody go listen to that. You know what's funny? We literally said to do the exact same things that we just did. It's not complex. It's like every month we run a promo sprint. Every month you should run a promo sprint where you're like, and there are different ways you could do it. You could do a product launch where you don't have deals, or you could do something where there is some kind of a deal on a collection or a product or the site-wide, or et cetera. We just did what we always do. Evergreen kept going. We layered on. We ran meta ads, email, SMS. We did post on the organic as well. Ta-da!
That's it.
You know what I mean? Like that's all you need to do. You don't need all of these different platforms. Really quick, crazy last note I'll kind of end on here. So yesterday, I don't know if I told you this. So I was meeting with ButcherBox for Pets. Did I tell you about this? I didn't. Oh, you weren't in the office yesterday.
No.
So the previous head of revenue of ButcherBox helped them grow to $500 million last year. He's now leading and helping lead ButcherBox for Pets. They're getting into this space. And so he met with us. I wish I could have worked with them. We just don't have capacity. But we were talking, and you know, it was so funny, so casually. I was like, so what are you prioritizing from a paid media channel for all of your advertising and everything? He's like, yeah, just Meta. Like, we don't need anything else. Like, he's like, just do the one thing. He's like, once we probably cross like the 100 million threshold with ButcherBox for Pets.
100 million?
Yeah, just casually. He's like, yeah, he's like, we're really small right now. They're doing a couple million a month already. Like, right out of the
really
gate.
Small, yeah.
And so he's like, once we cross like the 100 million, we'll probably start doing like TikTok, maybe Google a little bit before that. But he's like, obviously, as you know, like you don't have to do anything but Meta.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, thank you for reiterating what I've been saying forever, but like that's all they do. So like that's why we put all of our promo on Meta. We didn't have to worry about the other channels because they're there, but you don't have to put more focus on them.
Yeah.
So
well, there you go.
That's what we did. 567,000, 4 days, 157,000, 160,000 in ad spend. It was fun. And we're doing it again next week because we're already over a couple weeks past that. So the next one's coming up, and we're just gonna pump it again, and it'll be good month.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, hey, thanks for listening. Hopefully you found some value in this in some way. If you're own an e-commerce business and you want to know like, hey, how do I get access to like what you guys do, and maybe some coaching and training and courses and access to like the resources and systems and frameworks that we use to scale e-commerce brands, we work with a good handful of brands right now, and we do it through 2 programs that we have called the Max Profits Membership and the Alley. And so based on kind of where you're at, if you go to ecommercealley.com, you'll be able to see both of them, check them out, and schedule a call with our team. And if you're like, hey, I want to learn how to do these types of things, we teach exactly what we do to everybody. And then we coach through, here's how you optimize, here's how you do email, here's how you schedule promo sprints, here's what a promo sprint is, here's how you analyze them, and so forth. So if that sounds interesting to you, we'll have a link in the description, but go to ecommercealley.com, check it out, and we'll see you in the next episode.